Well, let's talk to the ex-partner of Putin's former banker, Alexandra Tolstoy, here in the studio. Good to see you this morning.
Good morning.
Why would Putin do this?
Well, I think it's fairly obvious that he wants to get rid of all his opposition. I think it's also a sign showing his power. He doesn't care. It's completely flagrant.
Well, that's the thing. If it was, he's got to know what the international reaction would be. Just say he just doesn't care about that.
Doesn't care about the international reaction. Just like Stalin didn't care and disposed of all his opponents in just the same way, he doesn't care, and for his domestic audience, it's a big message.
So, Ed, what can the West do? What should the West do to stop him?
Oh, well, I do not think we should be negotiating over Ukraine. I think, all this talk of appeasement and peace talks, that's just proven that it's just hopeless. Putin is not a person who compromises or sticks to his word or listens. So I think that, and I hope in America they'll be watching and listening.
Well, Putin did say back in 2021 that there will be consequences. I mean, that was then. This is the latest incident. Biden. So, there will be consequences. That was then. I mean, what consequences can there possibly be?
Well, I think we're talking, specifically about Ukraine, that we should be continuing to support Ukraine. We should absolutely not be compromising and handing over half the... last week, Lavrov, the foreign minister, was making the same threatening messages about Moldova. And we have to see... there's been a lot of talk with this ridiculous Tucker Carlson thing that Putin is a person who can be dealt with, who can be negotiated with. Why aren't we doing peace talks? I don't think that's true at all.
What about... Interesting that you say this is a message to the Russian people as much as anyone. Is that a sign that he feared there was a growing opposition, a growing strength of opposition?
Well, no, because I think over the last 15 years he's completely annihilated the opposition. But I think it's just more and more of a message, don't even bother. And last night, some very brave people, I think a lot of young, went out and put flowers out. Overnight, they've been removed, the flowers. People have been arrested. This is just a message. And, people I know will be too scared to talk about it. It would be almost an intrusion for me to message them and say something because... In
case it's monitored.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I think his widow is very brave to speak out.
Yeah.
And we spoke to our Marina Litvinenko earlier on as well, also very bravely speaking out. What would stop Putin? What is going to stop him? I mean, the war in Ukraine could go on and on and on.
Sadly, I think it's only in the same way with the Soviet Union that it's either a collapse, which unfortunately, economically, it doesn't look like that's going to happen, or it's a military or some kind of a coup. But, he's just stopped the only realistic candidate running in the presidential elections. He gathered more than 100,000 signatures. He was the only anti-war candidate, Nadyozhin, and then he's been eliminated. So I think all we can do now in the West is protect ourselves, and it's not by peace talks and it's not by appeasement.
No. What about the action? I mean, Trump, would he be an answer to all of this? Should he decide, should he win and should he decide to take the appropriate position? I mean, he is the type of person who would say, I'll bomb Moscow. I'll bomb the Kremlin. I mean, not to say that would happen, but that sort of threat, and knowing that he is someone who actually...
Yeah, so I think it's very frightening to have these two very unpredictable and egotistical, because really, Putin, I think, with Navalny, it was a huge, huge personal insult to his ego. Even just the way Navalny looks, he's an extremely good-looking guy. He's got this amazing wife, this absolutely perfect family story. Putin, claims to be the head of or very, very orthodox. Everybody knows he's living with his lover. He doesn't look great. And we saw him yesterday in Chelyabinsk. He looked like a weasel, like a puffy weasel, just smarmy, smiling. And I think he finds it so frustrating that this young, dynamic, extremely popular guy... so it was also personal.
Is he mentally unwell?
Putin is, yes, I'm sure he is. I think he's got...
Mentally unwell or a psychopath?
Well, no, I think he's got narcissistic personality disorder, probably. And also, in the same way that Stalin, he's gone completely mad because, we read all sorts of criticism. He doesn't have the internet, and he just has this tiny echo chamber around him. And we saw on Tucker Carlson's show, I think Tucker Carlson was expecting him at least to give some kind of presentable conservative values, and instead he just went rambling on, and he's got really no clue about his self-awareness, how he looks, what he's saying.
Everyone at every front page around the world, everyone's saying this was Putin's doing, they had him murdered. Russia are obviously saying he went for a walk and he collapsed and died.
Yeah, I don't think it matters what they say, whether he was literally poisoned at the last minute or whether he had a heart attack. He was killed by the Russian state, because the fact is he was put in solitary confinement for 27 days, I think, and it's illegal after 15 days because it's considered so tough on your health. It can make your liver collapse, your kidneys collapsed, and they just kept putting him in. The last time was because he demanded his pen to be returned to him. So they put him in solitary confinement. You don't have warm enough clothes, he's in the Arctic Circle. It doesn't, he was killed by the Russian state, of course he was.
Simone in Buckinghamshire has been in touch. She says there's nothing the West can do. Any change to the leadership in Russia must be made by the Russians alone. She says, she goes on to say the vast majority like and want Putin. Well, they may do, but any change is not, as we know, it's not going to be done democratically.
No.
Is there a realistic chance, actually, no doubt pushed on by the West, that someone could take some decisive action?
I think sadly not. I think that he really was the last chance, but I don't think, his death has definitely not been in vain. I think it probably has galvanised, especially young people who... You can't argue with this, that it's absolutely brutal, and it's just no different from the time of Stalin, when these ridiculous show trials, these fake convictions. Everybody knows he was convicted of being an extremist. Of course he wasn't an extremist.
Okay.
But no, I don't think there's much hope, sadly.
Alexandra Tolstoy, good to see you.
Thank you
very much indeed.